But Hajin suddenly felt doubt. He wondered, what if the target was human? The target being a jinn was not a certainty, it was just a rumor. This made Hajin doubt, what if he was not a jinn, would that make him a killer? Hajin's body stiffened when he came to that conclusion. He knew that he was in his novel, and they were just characters he created, but now, they felt really alive to him. Hajin then recalled his parents in his previous life. It managed to strengthen his resolve. Even if they really feel alive now, he will spend at least 10 years in this world, or, he might even be here longer than that, therefore he should not get too carried away in this kind of situation. Even if they really feel like living human beings, this place is not the real world, but a world in a novel. Hajin then emphasized it again, this is just a novel. Right after that, a very loud gunshot then sounded which shocked the birds around. Hajin's bullet was very fast and directly hit the target. The people around him then screamed in panic when they saw the incident. The atmosphere suddenly became chaotic at this time, and the boss watched all the events silently. She was silent for a moment looking at the target's corpse. She then muttered, a jinn does not bleed. Somewhere in Turin, Hajin was seen sitting alone there. He seemed to go straight there after completing his mission. He just sat there without doing anything. I don't know what was on his mind at the moment. In the middle of his silence, he was then surprised when someone suddenly called him. That person was the boss. The boss without further ado immediately sat on the chair in front of him. Seeing her, Hajin confusedly asked, how did you know I was here? The boss replied that she was tracking him. Hajin was then surprised that she could do that. The boss then praised him. She said that he had done his job well. Hearing that, Hajin said that he was happy to hear that. After saying that, Hajin then drank his coffee, but his hands looked a little shaky at the moment. The boss noticed that. Looks like that mission took a huge toll on his mind. This was probably his first time killing a person. The boss then asked him about his feelings about it. Hajin said that it was a little difficult because it was his first time. The boss was not surprised to hear that answer. Making money was not easy, however, only money could be trusted, especially for people like them. Hajin was then surprised to hear that. Hajin then asked about it. The boss explained, because we live a life without a family. Hajin's face stiffened hearing that. He paused for a moment. After organizing his thoughts, he then said that he thought it was true. The boss smiled slightly at that. She was happy to see Hajin quickly recover from his shock. The more she saw him, the more she liked him, even though Hajin had driven her away. But in fact the boss had secretly watched the course of his mission from the beginning. When she saw the bullet he fired, something that destroyed the mana barrier that enveloped the entire mansion, she realized that it was an anti-magic. The boss thought that if her eyes were not wrong, Kim Hajin would be the ace that would kill that person. Before the meeting of the chameleon troop members who discussed the recruitment of Kim Hajin, Drun at that time asked her, why does it have to be him? Is there a special reason? He is sure there are other people who are also strong and have anti-magic abilities. He is confused. Why do they have to choose an inexperienced cadet? Hearing that, another member with African American stature then asked him, you're objecting now after all this time? Drun said it was not an objecting, he was just curious about the reason. After a moment of silence, the boss then said, it's the eyes. They were both then confused at that. Drun then jokingly said to her, you are more romantic than expected. His friend was completely speechless at his words, not paying attention to the two of them. The boss then thought, Kim Hajin. He has a lonely look in his eyes. A look that says he can't trust anyone. It's the same look she had at that time. Thinking about it, the boss wondered, is that why I pay more attention to him? Because I don't want him to take the same path as me. In the middle of her musings, Hajin suddenly said to her, he asked, can you get the reward in kind, like an item? The boss said that it was not a problem. She then asked, is there any item you want? Hearing that, Hajin said that he would leave it to her to choose it. Hajin said that not without reason. It was because he knew the boss had many good and expensive items, but she didn't know about the price, so Hajin thought he might get an item that was more valuable than the promised reward. The boss then said that she understood, to celebrate you joining us, but, Hajin suddenly interrupted her words. He said that he had not agreed to join. The boss was then shocked to hear that. While scratching his cheek, Hajin then said, I'm the one that's deciding which group I join. But I felt like it's too early to make that decision right now. The boss was really speechless to hear that. She really couldn't guess the contents of his head. It was already midnight with the moon that could be seen clearly in the night sky. after completing his mission in his meeting with the boss, Hajin then returned to the dormitory. Hearing the door slowly open, Evangel, who was originally asleep, then woke up. While rubbing her eyes, she then called Hajin. Hajin was then surprised when he saw Evangel sleeping on the sofa. He then asked her, "Why are you sleeping there?" Evangel said that she was waiting for him to come home. While hugging him, Evangel then welcomed him. He thanked him for his hard work. Hajin gasped at that. This was a feeling he had never felt since he first entered this world. He then hugged Evangel back. The scene felt so heartwarming. To be honest, he had already realized that they were not just characters in the novel, but also breathing and living human beings. Hajin then gasped when he suddenly remembered the scene of Seaman's death. He then tightened his hug to Evangel. Evangel was then confused when she felt Hajin's body suddenly trembling. Hajin suddenly felt scared at this time. He wondered, would this situation continue to repeat itself when he tried to return to his world? If so, how many times would there be? Time passes. We finally arrive when the second midterm exam finally begins. However, this midterm exam is not as lively as the first. With the many incidents that occurred during the previous midterm exam, Cube does not allow outsiders to enter, although this is different from the original storyline in the novel, but Hajin didn't really care about it. This was just a vague part that he wrote without much details, so he also didn't really remember the contents. On his way to the exit, Hajin then saw the Cube students who looked very sluggish at this time. They complained about today's exam, which seemed so difficult for them. They even planned to report to the professors that the exam was too difficult. They seemed to be exhausted from the written exam. However, the day passed quickly for him, who again got first place in the written exam. While looking at his smartwatch, Hajin thought that he should go to the nursing home that Hosiop told him about as soon as possible, but someone suddenly called him at this time. That person was Nayun. Seeing her, Hajin then confusedly asked, "What's wrong?" Nayun asked, "Do you want to go to the study room?" Hajin replied no. He said that he wanted to go out. Nayun was then surprised to hear that. She then asked him, "Do you not want to study?" Hajin answered no. He said that he did not need to study. Nayun could only sigh in frustration hearing that. She then asked him, "Then, do you have some kind of summary notes?" But Hajin again said no. Seeing her depressed look, Hajin confusedly wondered, what was wrong with her again. Nayun then weakly called him. She asked him to help her a little. She said that she was a mess in today's written exam. She heard that just remembering the important parts can help her get 10 points more, so, with a pitiful look, Nayun then asked him to please help her study. Hajin was surprised to see that. He then asked her, "Why don't you just ask Yona? She might be better at summarizing and teaching others." Nayun gasped at that. While bowing her head, she then said that she had a fight with Yona. Nayun suddenly got an idea at this time. She then asked him, "How about this? I'll buy you a good meal." But, before she could finish her sentence, Nayun was then surprised when she saw Hajin who had left in front of her. Seeing that, Nayun then angrily called him. The reason why Hajin immediately left Nayun was because he was being chased by time at the moment. After a while traveling, he finally arrived at Sunshine Haven. This was the nursing home where Fernan Jesus, Tomer's father, lived. While Hajin was knocking on the door, the voice of an old lady was then heard who asked him to wait for a while. When the old lady arrived, she then asked him, "Is there anything I can help you with?" Hajin was then about to convey his needs, but the old lady suddenly became enthusiastic when she saw him. She seemed to recognize him. She asked, "Aren't you Kim Hajin?" Hajin was then shocked and confused at that. He still couldn't process what he had just heard. When he thought hard about it, he then realized something. He just remembered that the body he was currently possessed was once the body of a man named Kim Chundong. Kim Chundong was not just a character in a novel but a real person. He must have his own life and relationships that he didn't know about. When she saw him, the old lady then asked, "It's been almost a year since you last came to visit, right?" She then invited him to enter. Hajin still couldn't process the situation completely. He then hesitantly went inside and said, "Long time no see." He also asked if she was okay. When they got inside, the old lady said that the situation here never changed. While Hajin was looking around the nursing home, he then saw an old man waving his hand at him. He greeted him, "Long time no see, Hajin." Not only that old man, the other old men also looked enthusiastic when they saw him. They all seemed to recognize him. Hajin could only be silent seeing it. The scene seemed to cause ripples in his heart. The old lady then asked him, "So, what brings you here today?" Hajin was confused for a moment how to answer her question. He then said that he was looking for Mr. Jesus. Hearing that, the old lady then asked, "The one from South America, right?" She then said that he was a quiet person, all he did was talk to him a little. Hajin was surprised to hear that. He wondered, did Chundong know Fernan? He felt that this must be something that the co-author added to the storyline in this part. It was not so bad this time. This was a good thing for him. Hajin then asked, "I wonder if he left anything." Hearing that, the old lady then remembered for a moment. She then said that he did not ask for anything in particular, but it seemed that there was something he left. If there was indeed something he left, Hajin knew that it was a letter. The old lady was surprised that Hajin knew that. Hajin was grateful that it was still the same. The old lady then confusedly asked him, "How did you know?" Hajin did not answer her question and immediately asked her where the letter was now. Hajin did not really know what Kim Chuandong's real personality was like, but judging from the treatment of the people here, he was sure that he had a good relationship with the people here. Hajin then said that he had a promise with him. The old lady was silent for a moment hearing that. While cleaning her glasses, she said that she thought it made sense that he left something for him, because he was always willing to talk to anyone and be their friend. The old lady smiled as she recalled the memories. She then told Hajin to go to the Siaho Memorial Park. The letter will be with his remains. After that, Hajin then went straight to the Siaho Memorial Park. When he got there, Hajin couldn't help but think, "I have done so many things here that I have never done before in the real world." After walking for a while, Hajin then arrived at Area 17, first line, number 4, that was the location of the letter. After that, Hajin then searched the shelves there. Shortly after that, he then finally found the letter. He was grateful because it was still here, but when Hajin was about to take the letter, he suddenly felt hesitant. He already knew the contents of the letter. He wondered, "I don't need to open this letter, right? At least I'm not the first person who has to read this." But Hajin immediately threw away all his doubts. He realized that there was a chance that the co-author did some tricks here. If the contents of the letter changed, everything would be very complicated. So, Hajin decided to read it. Meanwhile elsewhere, Yona is listening to a report from her subordinate at this time. The report was about Kim Hajin's past life. Her subordinate reported, before he entered Cube at the age of 11, there were many records of him doing volunteer work at orphanages or nursing homes. Yona was surprised to know Hajin did such things. She wondered, was that the reason why he was out so often? There were many bad rumors about him. She didn't expect this to be the truth behind him. Although that didn't mean she believed the rumors. He grew up as an orphan, and entered the military academy agency when his talent was awakened. It was a life story that underwent a big change for the good. Yona thought, if I were him, I would definitely throw the bad past I had into the trash. But Hajin chose to remember his past. No, maybe he reached out to others to rediscover his past. He did not use his power as a tool to attract attention, but only used it without others knowing when they needed help. While that's not aligned with her values, she have no choice but respect him for it. Yona felt that Hajin was really an incredible person. She then asked her subordinates, "Do we have more important information about his past, such as his birthplace?" Her subordinates replied no, they were still working on it, but that was the only information they could get. She apologized to her. Hearing that, Yona then told her to look harder. She understood. Her subordinates then continued their report. They received a request from the Korean mafia to track down an assassin. One of their officers was murdered and it was said that the assassin was from Korea. Hearing the name of the Korean mafia, Yona then thought, she had wanted to contact them for something related to relic smuggling. Hearing the report made her think maybe she could propose more favorable conditions for them. Yona then said that she understood. She asked, "Can we track down this assassin?" Her subordinate replied. There was a newbie named Kim Hosiop who joined them. He was quite useful. She then sent a file containing his data to her. Reading the file, Yona was pensive for a moment. While Yona was getting a mission to track him down, Hajin himself was currently reading the letter left by Fenrir Jesus. But after he read the entire contents of the letter, he did not find any changes. He then put the letter back into the envelope. This was a relief for him. In the current situation, this was the only answer that the Truth Agency could provide. While Tomer was leaning her head in her hands, her smartwatch suddenly beeped at this time. When she opened the smartwatch, and checked the content of the notification she got, she was then shocked. The notification contained a message sent by the Truth Agency saying that they had found Fernan Jesus. This was such exciting news for Tomer. they told her to send the specified payment amount if she wanted to hear their reply.